Okay, so you've heard about Bitcoin by now and you're wondering, is Bitcoin good, bad? What should I be thinking about it? Because you are not the kind of person who just jumps into an investment just because people are making money. You want to make sure that you're socially responsible. And that's a good place to be because that just means you've got the heart and the mind to make sure that what you're supporting also supports your moral values, right? And so, is Bitcoin good or bad? And how would you know? Uh, that's what I started thinking about when I first started getting into Bitcoin. At first, I didn't know what it was. The more I found out about it, spoiler alert, actually, the more I liked it. And it lined up with a lot of my moral values. So I'm going to share what I have learned over the years about Bitcoin and my experience, what I've seen. So if you have wondered, is Bitcoin good, bad? Can God even be using Bitcoin in a wealth transfer? We have some answers for you. So, hello and welcome to Life in Abundance, the channel where women get together to talk about wealth, prosperity, so that we can have a life in abundance. My name is Kathy. And so let's start here. What do we know about God from what the Bible tells us? We know, first of all, that God knows everything. He knows the end from the beginning, Isaiah says. So, therefore, we would know that God is not surprised by anything that happens here on earth, right? He knew what would happen. He knew that men would realize what fire could do. He knew men would be able to harness electricity. He knew that man would be able to one day go into space. And he knew that somebody would create this technology that might even be able to evolve money itself. So God's not surprised by any of this. As a matter of fact, because God is the original creator, and that's one of the things that defines him. He loves to create, right? He created humans, he created all of life form, and he made man special. Mankind is the only creation he made that we know of that has this ability to also create. As a matter of fact, there are passages in the Bible where they're questioning, even maybe even angels might question, God, why do you consider man? Even though man was technically created a little lesser than the abilities of angels because they're bigger, they're stronger, they fly, and yet God gave man the ability to create. And that is the reason why God says that man was made in his image, in his likeness, because we have this ability to create. So we have created all of these things that have progressed mankind. There are 1.5 million animals out there. But what monkeys were doing 1,000 years ago, using rudimentary sticks or climbing trees, that's what they're still doing. And man, even every 100 years, our technologies and abilities have changed because of what we have created. And so God's not surprised by any of that. He's probably glad a lot. I would even dare to say that all creativity has been divinely inspired. And what we also know about God is that God hates dishonest scales and therefore dishonest money, right? Think about the first time the Bible records Jesus being angry is when he went to the church to pray, and there were all these money changers in on the grounds, and he like basically kicked them out, overturned tables. He had this righteous anger because they had dishonest scales. They were basically gouging the people. They were overcharging the people. God doesn't like that. And so, what does that have to do with cryptocurrency and creation? So, I didn't know this at first when I first got into Bitcoin. When I first got into Bitcoin a few years ago, I was looking for an investment. I'm a mom. I now have 4 kiddos. It's possible all of them will be in college at the same time. Got a few more years to go. So there was a reason I needed to have my money grow fast in order to get all of them prepared for college and have something for retirement for me and my spouse, because I didn't want to do just one or the other, right? I was trying to find something that would do both. So I needed something that was going to work. And I tried so many other things. I won't go through my whole story, but that's what got me at least looking at Bitcoin, right? I was investing in all the traditional stuff and it wasn't working as well. And so Bitcoin ended up on my radar screen. And maybe like you, the first time I heard about it, it's like, well, I don't know, whatever. And I didn't go look at it, but it kept coming up. And so I thought, well, might as well look into it. So no angels appeared, no trumpet from heaven, Kathy, look at Bitcoin, or anything like that. It was just like a curiosity. So I started looking into it. And I found out something about Bitcoin that I didn't expect. And that was when somebody might be concerned that their country could manipulate the country's currency, you have now a reason to look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is outside of any one country's system. It was not created by a government. It was actually just created by people. And so it's been growing and perpetuating because people started using Bitcoin to help each other, to trade with each other. And so it was a really grassroots kind of growth. That was interesting to me. Also, when you're thinking about the country issue, the value of that currency is basically, hey, we as a government back up the value of that currency. So we declare in our country, this is how we're going to exchange value with our currency. Unfortunately, that also gives them the power to be able to control that money supply. So when the government itself maybe make loans, maybe need to pay back the loans or need more money, they can print it because they have the power to do it. And I guess it's good for them, but that the value of that money ends up decreasing because now there's more money in the system, more bills in the system, but not more value. Does that make sense? And so that's how you and I end up experiencing inflation. And that's really not fair, is it? It's not fair that somebody else gets to control how much value your retirement, my retirement, is worth after we have spent time and effort and energy trying to save for our retirement. Okay, so that's the thought processes I had in my head as to why I would look at Bitcoin at the time. So it made sense to me. I was like, well, do I trust my government to control their money supply, control their spending, and therefore be able to control inflation? I gave it a decent chance that they're going to just continue printing money. And over the time that I've been doing this, that's exactly what they've done, right? So my thesis on that has been correct. I'm not the only one who thinks that. I'm not that brilliant. I heard it amongst many. So it's a very popular and common understanding amongst people who do hold Bitcoin. So now we've got that Bitcoin is a new technology that maybe God is, that I believe God inspires progress. And that if those things are true, then is it possible that as governments have started using money dishonestly, like not responsibly, that God would have put an idea into somebody's mind that would be able to create a more fair exchange system. I think that's possible. Well, what were we doing before Bitcoin? Well, for the thousands of years before paper currency, there was gold. What made gold valuable? Not only is it shiny, it's not the only shiny metal, but, but gold had specific properties that made it really effective as a sort of value system, sort of money system. Now, way in the past, maybe people were using rocks or beads, shells. And then over thousands of years, they started using this shiny rock, this metal called gold. What made gold valuable to humans? One, it was scarce. Not everybody had it. It wasn't everywhere. Like, right? Why didn't they use leaves? There were special characteristics about gold that made it effective as something that was scarce. Why was it scarce? Because you needed to make effort to get it. It's in the ground. People needed to dig for it, find it, refine it, shape it into pieces, and have weights, know how much 1 ounce is valued differently than half an ounce. So it also had to be divisible, right? Because not everything costs one gold coin, right? You don't want to buy a piece of bread for the same amount of money that you're buying a table. So it had to be divisible, had to be portable. You had to be able to bring it around, and it had to be transferable. Now, there are more qualities, such as you wanted some sort of purity, so some sort of assurance that this was the real thing, some sort of authenticity. Otherwise, because what happened? People started trying to use other metals and then wrap it with just a little bit of gold rather than having a solid gold coin. All of these properties of gold is what kind of helped people have assurance as to its quality, its authenticity, its usability. So when humankind started spreading around the world, there were different governments, different languages, different kind of value systems. Gold ended up being this thing that everybody kind of understood had a certain sort of value. And then in the 1900s, early 1900s, everybody's still looking for gold, trying to find gold in the mid 20th century. So now suddenly, the government in the US was like, hey, don't transact in gold. Bring your gold to the bank. We're just going to give you this paper that says you own this amount of gold, and you can use that paper to transact. And that's how currency, at least in the US, occurred. And back then, you could still take the currency and transfer it back into gold. But in the 1970s, the US went off the gold standard. Now, this is history. You're like, I don't know that I need to know this. It's interesting because it helps us understand how initially humans had a certain type of thing in order to know its value. And it occurred for thousands of years, and it worked until mankind started trying to do dishonest things with their money. Like I said, mixing it with other metals, cutting it in so many tiny slivers of pieces that, like, it was hard to value. But those properties of money, they end up being the precise properties that Bitcoin also has. So Bitcoin is scarce. There's only 21 million that will ever be made. We don't even have 21 million yet. We have what's available is probably about 19.5 million. And some of those are lost. So maybe at the most, we'll end up getting somewhere around 15, 16 million. So it's scarce. Not everybody has it, although 21 million may sound like a lot. Think about 8 billion people already, not including businesses and other entities. So now Bitcoin starts sounding scarce. It's divisible. One Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million thousand Satoshis. So it's divisible, it's portable. You can have them in your cryptocurrency wallet, go anywhere in the world, and it'll still be on the blockchain. It is transferable. You can send it to anyone else. They can send you some. It is immutable, meaning once a transaction is made, that transaction record is kept forever in the Bitcoin records of transactions. So therefore, no Bitcoin can be duplicated. No Bitcoin can be duplicated. Bitcoin can't be laundered, falsified. So there's integrity in the system. For all these reasons, and I'm not even going through all of them, there's a few more, but through all of these reasons, I think there's a good possibility that God could use Bitcoin. And now I've seen it in how I have been led to learn to study Bitcoin. I know that me and my family have been blessed by understanding what it is, how to invest, and how to use it. I can't say it's going to be for everybody. There is volatility in price, and those are things that you have to know. But when you're looking at an investment, how many times has it worked out where you don't know anything about it and it just happens to work out by itself? Not often. Usually you got to know a little bit more about it so that it works out well, right? So that you know when it goes up, could it be time to sell? Take some profits. When it goes down, is it going to go to zero, or is it a buying opportunity where if you put more in your stack, if and when you know it's something that will rise again, it'll be an even better investment, right? So there's some knowledge that goes to them. But Bitcoin over time has proven it is not a scam. It is not a fad. If it were, would governments be trying to buy it? Would companies put billions and billions of dollars, not like when people start, we might put hundreds, maybe even just $10, maybe 1,000 or such in it. These companies are putting billions and billions of dollars into it. I think that they would have sent somebody in to make sure that it was not a scam before they did that, right? So I am not saying that forever and ever Bitcoin is going to be a blessed asset by God. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that God can use anything to bless his people. What God wants to do is bless those who are doing honest work, who are trying to do good with the substance of what they have, make the world a better place, give to others, alleviate suffering. And God's promised that when for people who have dishonest gains, that wealth won't last. And the wealth transfer in the last days is actually not for people to go, yay, I get a bigger house. I get an extra car. I get 10 vacations a year in my new yacht. I'm not saying any of those are wrong. I am saying the purpose of the wealth transfer is so that God can put value in the hands of those who are going to be willing to collect it and be able to share, to give, helping others. Could God use Bitcoin in your finances so that they grow more, so that you have more to give, so that your family is well taken care of? That's what he did for me. But God can use anything. And right now, I have also a good idea that there are going to be other cryptocurrencies God is going to use for part of the wealth transfer. Because Bitcoin is like this value layer that's the foundation of cryptocurrency value. But there's other cryptocurrencies. Not all of them are going to work. Not all of them are going to work. Don't go out and just jump into anything, because that has not proven to be a good strategy. But God could use cryptocurrencies out there, because a lot of them are going to provide utility, are going to help bring humanity into the next phase of progress in various fields. So don't poo-poo it all the way. Consider it if you're thinking, this makes some sense. And I hope this has been helpful. If it has, give me a like or put a comment down below. What was interesting about something we said today, or what something interesting that you realized about cryptocurrency that maybe you didn't know before, especially something you learned about Bitcoin that was a new idea for you. You could share it with me in the comments. That would be awesome. And I hope to see you in a future video here at Life in Abundance. I'll see you soon.